Sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna just try this one. Okay, yeah, to explain this, it's a good idea. This project is made by the 1 Minute Junior. And 1 Minute Junior is a project from the 1 Minute Foundation. And with the 1 Minute Foundation, I think, as you already guessed, we produce and distribute 1 minute films. And we're active in the field of visual art, but also in education and welfare. And with this 1 Minute Junior project, we want to provide to social change. And for this, we think it's important to give young people a voice. So what we do is we do workshops all over the world for young people, 5 days workshops. Actually, we do it most of the time in a kind of the same format. So it's a 5 days workshop for about 20 people. They all make their own film. And film is not only interesting because it's a means for people to create, but also a means for people to communicate. But also in the process of producing films, it's very collaborative. You can't make a film by yourself. And for this particular situation, we were invited by UNICEF Ukraine over 5 years ago to do a series of workshops. So I think we went there over 10 or 15 times to do workshops with these young people that were already in war at that time.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we asked them to visualize how is your, what is daily life like living in a war zone? How does it affect the way you see your future? Trying to ask children answers on these questions with the means for them to have their voices heard, but also we thought it was interesting and important to have their voice as to give them agency, because I think if you want to make the world a better place, and I think we all want that, I think it's important to understand each other and to hear each other's stories, and the stories of children, I think, are most of the time more believable in a way, because adults they are politicians or they have economic reasons for saying certain stuff, and so for children I think it's important for them to have this stage, to have a platform to share their experiences.
Exactly.
And right now the film festival in Oberhausen, they invited us to make a compilation of, we have over 100 films we made, so we made a compilation of 45 films for the festival. And Misha, who's there, he made the compilation and he edited it. And it's now touring around the world. And I can say now that yesterday we were invited by the Kiev International Film Festival to show this. And this is for us really important that the people in the Ukraine also get to see them.
Yes.
So I think it's a little bit of a long answer, sorry, but
no, good. It's
to
very
explain
good.
What we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. If I can ask you too, because you have roots in Ukraine, how did you feel watching this, especially?
That's a good question. It's complicated.
I'm sorry.
Many things can be done. I think Iceland has done a lot, and they've been very welcoming, open to all of the Ukrainian refugees, and they have been trying to do the best they can. But of course, in hindsight, there's a lot of things that can be done better in terms of what's happening in Iceland with the refugees in particular. Also with this sort of natural thing that happens when you're confronted with so much media news constantly about something dark and horrible like war. A lot of people turn off and become indifferent or disregard the situation and step back. That's part of the human condition, but it's important for Icelanders to continue exercising how to be aware about the war and to not become complacent about these things. There's a lot of issues with Iceland's immigration policies, with asylum seekers, refugees coming here, and this situation that's happened with Ukrainians coming to Iceland has definitely uncovered or made more visible a lot of these issues that have been sort of percolating in the system for a long time. So it's important to sort of look back, step back, make a consensus about the situation, how it could be how it could be better, how the government, politicians can be more proactive and develop a more efficient, better system. As good as it has been, there are obviously many ways to improve it. So the Icelanders, I know this weekend there's at Kolaportu, there's an event with Ukrainians thanking Icelanders for their support and help. And, I know that over time, Ukrainians will be staying here, coming here more often. Iceland needs a Ukrainian embassy, and there needs to be more advocacy for people in this situation.
As I see, the main priority, in Ukraine, is of course weapon, because as soon as our army will stop this and clear country from Russians, as soon all the refugees came back. And but of course, Iceland makes a lot for artists, for refugees, and I think also it's important to talk every time about war, because news about war has some people tired from the news, from the bad news. When I was in Berlin for pop-up, people asked me, why are you talking about war? What about talk it should be what kind of talk do you think? It's like it was strange, but yeah, it's the main priority, I think, weapon and talking about war all the time, because bad things happens every day, really every day.
Thank you. I would like to open the floor if anyone in the audience would like to ask a question. Anyone? Yes?
I have a very difficult question. It's about more the idea of a military-industrial complex that would like conflict to stay in the Ukraine for like years to come.
Right.
And
What complex?
the American and the Russian,
Yeah.
and all the investors on both sides
Yeah.
that profit from arms race and weapon expenditure, and that want a conflict zone such as Yemen in the Ukraine. And yeah, this is to me like the hardest thing, because I mean it's not talked about, but it's obvious that there's so many parties that are interested in keeping the conflict alive, and that's really, I mean both sides that want the war, and like we pretend to be on both sides, so I mean how do we deal with that? How do we deal with that conversation? Because to me it's a fact, and people that sorry.
Yeah, that's complicated.
Yeah.
Well, war makes money.
Yeah.
There's been many conflicts. One of the things Artists for Ukraine started under the umbrella project of Art Against Wars. So there's definitely idea of working with people in all different conflicts around the world, but how to combat financial governmental system that's geared toward creating these things or profiting off of these things. I think that is somewhat an outcome of conflict. It might not be the reason that the conflicts happen, but it's definitely part of the reason they maintain themselves. So I don't know how to stop it. There's this idea that I was researching a lot about the social contract, the natural contract, and how governments and nations become more responsible for each other over time into the future. There's a great risk of devolving society into a rat race, chaos type of situation, but there's also a possibility that these contracts that are written between governments, like the war, the denuclearization treaties, and all these which have been sort of just pushed aside and not honored, it's up to creating a universal contract or something that creates a more harmonious society in the future. And I think a lot of people are thinking about that, trying to figure out those things. That's a big cake to cut.
Would anyone like to add?
No, to be honest, I think you might be right, but also I really would like to think that I think no human being really wants war. And but I think you're right that there are processes and systems making people and organizations and countries profit from war. So I think you're right that there is, but I think if people look into their hearts, that nobody really wants war. So I think what we should do is speak to their hearts. That's the only thing we can do.
Yes, I think I agree, and I also think that the thing what we can do, it's like there are a lot of volunteering services who collect money for buy a weapon. So it's what I'm doing now. So I just selling clothing and then send the money for the volunteering services where they buy this weapon. So because I think it's the main priority now. And this is what can I do, and all the artists can do. It's no, of course, the main priority is stay alive, and like everything should be comfortable. But it's like what exactly can do.
Thank you. I think that's just a good note to end on, because I am afraid that we are out of time. But thank you so much for being here, and thank you for coming and speaking and talking about yourselves. Thank you.